Hey everybody, it's Brooke with The Buttered Home and welcome to my messy kitchen. Today we continue with our great tailgate appetizers and couchgate appetizers for you. We're going to cap off the month with a very kind of fancy pants appetizer that's great whether it's for a football game or for a small bites table at Thanksgiving and Christmas. Now this one is a little festive, but it combines some of my most favorite flavors and I can't wait to share it with you. It is our Cranberry Sausage Brie bites. And y'all know that I love to cook from scratch, homemade, all those things, but I'm also a huge fan of a good shortcut too. And there's sometimes just nothing that can replace that of a canned crescent roll. And this takes it and just makes it a beautiful thing. Simple ingredients. We start out with those crescent rolls and we have 1 wheel of brie. You can get this in the specialty cheeses section of your grocery store, and I'm going to show you how to break it down for this recipe too. Then we have 1 pound of cooked and drained pork sausage. Now, as usual, all of our ingredients are just to get you thinking and to get you started. There's lots of different ways that you can take this and make it your own recipe. The basic principles are bread, cheese, protein, and a little sweet. And I have this whole berry cranberry sauce. Normally, I make my own cranberry sauce, and you can find that at thebutteredhome.com. But this is rather early this year, so whole cranberries are kind of hard to find. So I went with the canned route just for this, but feel free to use the canned, or you can check out our recipe for making your own. It is delicious. And certainly around the holidays, you'll be able to find them and can make that to go with it as well. And then it'll be more homemade than not. So we're going to put this together now for you. I'm going to show you really quickly how to break down the brie. Now, it normally comes in like a little wooden or cardboard package, and it's round. It's a wheel of brie, if you will, and it's wrapped in paper. So we take it out of the paper, and then what I do is I quarter the brie. It just makes it a little easier to work with, and you'll notice it has this white rind on it. Now a lot of people, when they cook brie, they leave that on it because it this is a really creamy, melty cheese, and it will ooze everywhere. That's what the purpose the rind serves. So, but for our application here, we take the rind off. So I quarter the wheel, and then I take it and I set it on its side, and just with a really sharp trimming knife, I carefully just take a small sliver of that off. Throw it to the side. If you get a little cheese, it's okay. Or if you leave a little bit of the rind, it's all right too. The rind doesn't taste terrible. It's just we're putting this inside of our sausage brie bites, so we don't want it to be rindy, and the rind can sometimes be a little bitter. So we take that off, and I've got it off the sides, and then I cut it one more time in the middle just to make it a little bit easier to handle. So breaking things like this down into smaller portions really helps you if you're using a really sharp knife. So you can just slide it in there and without taking off too much of that cheese. So we just take it and just slide it off. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just do it good for the most part. And then I just break it down into chunks. No real rocket science behind it. We just want it in these beautiful bite-sized chunks. So it makes it go a little faster, and it is just a little easier to work with whenever you're trying to get that sometimes cumbersome rind off of the cheese. So we're going to set that to the side. And then I have my crescent roll dough. Now y'all know this calls for 2 cans of crescent roll dough, so I'm doing half because I've got half made up already so that you can see the finished product. And I like to just take it and just roll it out. And I push those big seams together first. And usually for me, it never comes out of the can all in one whole roll. So I have to take it out in two sections like this, and I just like to overlap them together. And then I just press those seams together. And then I take the center seams and just press those together. It doesn't have to be perfect, because when we put this in our pan, we're going to kind of shape, you can shape it with your hands again at that point. Process is just about getting it more or less together. It doesn't have to be perfect. So this makes 24 of these little sausage brie bites. So we're doing half, so I'm only going to do 12. So I'm going to cut my dough in half, and I really could have left that perforation there. It would have been fine, but just to show you kind of the gist, if you're making the full recipe, I did kind of just press all those seams together. So at this point, we want to have at least 6 sections as evenly spaced as we can. So just as a good rule of thumb, I'll use that other perforation line and just cut there, and then I have 4 pieces, and then all I have to do is just cut those in half. So sometimes using half of the recipe like this makes it a little easier to figure than trying to put out all those at the same time. Well, I actually have 8, so I've messed myself up. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to, these are a little longer than these, so I'm going to just go right there. Then we can reshape those. Sorry, my math skills are not my best skills. I had a hard time in 3rd grade with multiplication, I'll just be honest. All right, so I have a mini muffin tin, and I've sprayed it once, but I have the most trouble getting this guy clean. The most trouble. I usually have to get Big D involved, so I'm going to spray it really well 2 times so that it won't be so cumbersome to deal with. All right, so I'm going to take these squares, and you see how where they're separated, they're coming apart. These are a little bit larger, so I'm going to just kind of tuck the edges around and just make it a little bit smaller and put it into this little wonton shape into the mini muffin tin. And like I said, this is not about perfection. If they're not all the same size, that's fine. This is a very rustic type of appetizer. You just want to make sure that you have a lot of that dough that comes up out of your muffin tin so that it'll make like a little pie almost. So then we're going to take these squares, and because they're smaller, you can do them the same way. You can wrap them around like a wonton and just press in the middle, and then just push those down. And see, these guys will be a little smaller, but nobody's going to care that some are bigger and some are smaller, because they're all going to taste really, really good. I love recipes like this that don't have to be just so. You can take it and you can make it anything that you need it to be. It doesn't matter if it's large or small. What matters is the happiness on people's faces when they eat this burst of flavor that is so good. So we're going to go ahead now and finish putting these guys in a pan. And since I'm not doing all 24 with this baking, I'm going to space them out in my 24 pan. That way they don't kind of run into one another. And you want to watch, I'll do the technique a little slower. You take it and you just fold it over itself and make just like, it's like when you were a kid and you played with Play-Doh. If you played with Play-Doh, you just make this little almost triangle shape from a square. And you could certainly do this in the muffin tin too and shape it however you needed to shape it. But this is just the quickest, easiest method that I've found. All right, I'm going to just wipe off my work surface here. Get it where I can move my pan and we can finish the assembly. Then we just take this brie, and according to your cup size, you want to just fill up that cup. And some may take 2, some may take 1, depending on how big they are. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. This brie is so nice and creamy, it's gonna just cook and almost melt into these crescent rolls. And I just like to use it up until it's gone, and some have a lot and some have a little. And you can even break it down a little farther to make it go a little farther. And then we have our cooked sausage, and I just spoon that and almost cover the top of the whole thing. Because whenever the crescent rolls cook, they're gonna cook up and just kind of hug whatever you've got on top here. And if you're like me, it can be messy, and I've got too much cheese in that one, so I'm gonna push it down. The messier, the better. So according to your preference, you can put a little or you can put a lot. Just a little spattering of the protein in there is nice. It complements the cheese. And I'm going to take this guy out because I have just a little too much in there. Set that to the side. Now, one of the beautiful things about this recipe is I am using just a mild breakfast pork sausage. If you like hot, if you don't like hot, if you don't like mild, you can fit this recipe to go with your preference. Whether you like it hot, you can make it with spicy breakfast sausage, or you can make it with regular. You can even make it with deer sausage if you have some. There's really no limit. This is like all of our other recipes where we just kind of give you a rough sketch to go by so that you can just be thinking about what you're cooking. Now I'm going to just take just a tad of that whole berry cranberry sauce, just a little, because it's really sweet. And the brie is a little sweet as well. So you just want one to accentuate the other, but not overpower the whole thing. This just adds a little festive sweetness. And whenever the cranberries cook down in the oven, they almost become like a syrup. And it gets all down in that sausage and mixes with the sausage and the cheese, and it's fantastic. Now at this point, if you wanted to, you could take just a little sprig of rosemary and just put it on the top. I like to do that around the holidays because it gives it a little bit of earthiness. Rosemary is fantastic, but there are some in my house who don't like it. So one is all I get. Because we're cooking for him today because he's been working really hard. Anyway, so I fixed my one with a little bit of rosemary, but the rosemary can be done before you cook it, or if you wanted to keep it nice, bright and green, I would garnish with it after the cooking process is done. These will go into a 375-degree preheated oven for about 15 minutes until they're done. The only thing that we're cooking is the crescent roll. So it doesn't take long, about 15 minutes, and they come out. I usually cool a bit in the pan. It makes them easier to handle and get out. And then I just use a little spatula and just lift them out, and I put them on a really pretty serving tray. And when they come out, they are a thing of beauty. Now we're gonna just shoot overhead and show you how pretty they are, and I'm gonna bust one open. And they are gorgeous. Look at that brie in there. That brie has just melted so that it has become one with the crescent roll. The whole totality of this beautiful little bite of goodness is, I mean, I don't even have words to explain it, but all of the components of this goes together so well that you will have people asking for these time and time again. So this is our cranberry brie sausage bites. The recipe can be found, just like all of our other recipes, over at thebutteredhome.com. I'm real proud of our website. We would love it if you joined us over there. And this will be found under the appetizer section there. Also, if you're not already, make sure that you're following us on all of our social channels. We cook live from time to time over at Facebook and Instagram and have a really good time doing that, and we would love for you to join us. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel on YouTube, be sure and go there and hit the subscribe button and ding the bell so that you can be notified when we drop new videos like this one. Y'all, we have a lot coming up. It's about to be the most wonderful time of year, October, November, and December. I love it. My favorite place to be is in the kitchen during the holidays, and I can't wait to show you what we have in store for you during this most wonderful holiday season. So be sure and subscribe to all those channels and stick around and join us, because you never know what you're going to get. You might see me throw some rosemary at the camera one day, just for Danny. Y'all have a wonderful day, and from the buttered home to your home, we love y'all. Bye.